if anybody's new, we let the wisdom wheel choose the talk focus. The overarching theme this morning is gratitude, a way of life. And I'm going to spin this, and it's filled with questions that come from the community. So this is really your service, and let's see what we're going to talk about today. Alrighty. Gratitude as a way of life when I'm going through physical death. And so we're going to do our candle lighting, our reading, and our time of meditation, and then Eamon will end our meditation time with a spiritual mind treatment, and I am going into deep meditation for guidance on how to address this. So, let's take a breath. Thank you, Jamie. Gratitude is a way of life. That was enough. But apparently not. During the meditation, I kept remembering a moment in the CSL community in Santa Rosa where Reverend Dr. David Alt was the guest speaker. And he started his talk with this: the moment we're born, we enter hospice. So let's get about the business of living and quit worrying about dying. I have never forgotten that. And there's a lot of confusion in our teachings about how we talk about and how we understand this concept of healing. A lot. One of the challenges is that we're defining illness and healing in conditioned terms, in the terms of a physical world, in the context of an unconditioned spiritual principle. So there's always going to be a little bit of misunderstanding in that, right? The truth is, we were born whole. We will live whole. We will die whole. The spiritual us has never been ill, can't be ill, was never born, so it can't die. And that's a lot for us to wrap our little Homo sapien brains around, right? That and I don't recommend having this conversation with your mother because she might disagree, that you actually weren't ever born. She had a completely different experience of that. But what we're talking about is this ever-present allness, right? Scientifically, we can go back as far as the Big Bang. But we still can't explain where the things came from that collided in the Big Bang. From whence cometh them, right? We still can't find a point of origin of creation, which suggests that it's always existed, that it really doesn't have a point of origin. Which I'll just be the first one to admit that I'm like, my poor little brain goes, huh? I was having a conversation with a ministerial colleague earlier in the week, and we both agreed that oftentimes as ministers in this teaching, we feel like one of those little brown fuzzy dogs in the back window plate of a 57 Chevy. Because at some point, I just have to surrender to, I don't know. I don't know. And yet I do know. I just have no way to articulate what I know. And I think and I've sat with countless people while they were leaving their physical body. Some of them in a ditch as an EMT. Some of them taking a note to tell their wife or their children something on my arm because there was nothing else to write on, because we couldn't extricate them from a vehicle quickly enough. And what I've observed is that when we are leaving this physical body, it doesn't really matter where we're going. It doesn't even matter where we've been. It matters who we love. That's what I've witnessed. Is that people just want to leave one last message for the people they love. They want that one last connection. And I think it's that connection that keeps us here in the first place.
Yes.
Right? That spiritually, when I think about the magnificence of our spiritual being, I remember at Justin's funeral, Reverend Dr. John Waterhouse, who was then the senior minister at the Asheville Center, just showed up. Now, that's a whole nother conversation. I don't even know how he knew I was there and what was going on. I just know the man showed up when I needed somebody the most. And we were talking afterwards, and what he said was, if we could really comprehend what was on the other side, we'd all be jumping off of bridges to get there. There would just be a big party at every bridge and humanity would just leave. And I haven't forgotten that. And so perhaps this thing that we all too often vilify of attachment is part of creation that keeps us here. Right? Because if we weren't attached, why stay? Why stay? So what happens when we're going through a physical death? How do we experience gratitude? Well, the obvious stuff, you can articulate everything that you're grateful for on your way out. That's easy. But is it more than just naming things? Can we actually experience this deep sense of gratitude as we're here and as we're leaving? I've been sitting with the question all week of, if we strip away all of the adjectives, if we strip away all of the personification, all of the labels, all of the names that we have assigned to consciousness, what's left? What's left? How do we then know how to experience a thing if we take away all of the words that we use to describe it? Because what I've recognized is the words that I use to describe my spiritual experience are the very things that limit it. Right? Can I imagine something beyond what can be articulated? And I think with the people that I've been with as they were physically dying, they knew that. They knew that. I had the honor of being at the head of Linda Webb Kakaba's bed as she was leaving. And if you don't know who Linda Webb Kakaba was, she was a huge musician in our movement. She was the music director in Santa Rosa for a long time. She did music for Women's Spirit. She got her doctoral acknowledgement from Centers for Spiritual Living for her contributions to music. And I could feel as she was leaving the energy shift. She was experiencing something that is indefinable. Had the same experience. I was director of social services in a 120-bed nursing home. And Edna, 104 years old, just as lucid as you and I, get up every morning, get dressed, put on her makeup, get her magazine cart, and I'm like, what are you doing today, Edna? I'm delivering magazines to these old people. She's the oldest person in there by far. Right? Had no health issues. None at 104. And she called down to my office and said, come sit with me, it's time for me to go. She took off her makeup. She put on her nightgown. She crawled into bed, closed her eyes, and 4 hours later she was gone. Now I don't know how she did that, but I want to know. I want to know how to have that kind of decision-making power. Right? But I watched her body become increasingly more relaxed. I watched her facial muscles become this smile. And I'd seen her every day for a lot of years. But something shifted as she left her body. There was a peacefulness. We in Science of Mind often refer to death as a transition. And I think it is a transition. We transition from physical form to unformed. And I invite you to also acknowledge that people die. I have never found it helpful when a relative is dealing with the death of a loved one to point out to them that they didn't die. It's not the time. There's another place and time for that. I know it would not have gone well if you had suggested to me the day I learned that Justin died that he didn't die. That would not have gone well. We'll leave it at that. But then there was the moment where I realized, standing at World's Edge in Hendersonville, North Carolina, and it's called World's Edge for a reason, because literally it's like the edge of everything. It's the top of a mountain. And what I got really clearly is I'm right here, Dad. I haven't gone anywhere. I've just gone from being in one place to being every place. And I experienced a level of peace that has never left. And so maybe when we're going through physical death, we have a personal experience of that journey. I mean, let's face it, it is absolutely the one mystical experience we are all guaranteed. There's no way to get a preview, right? There's no way. We can't go there, come back, it was all right, I'll do it differently next time. It's the one mystical experience we're all going to get. And I think probably the healthiest thing to do is live. Just like the his father's name's in my head. Tim McGraw. I got Tug McGraw in my head. Too much baseball. To live like you are dying. To circle full back to that moment where, like David Alt said, the moment we are born, we enter hospice. And what if we got so comfortable with that we lived without all of the protections, without all of the limitations, without all of the effort to stay here, so much as to live while we're here? Ernest Holmes says it on page 270 of Science of Mind. It is not important that we leave a legacy. What is important is that while we're here, we live. That while we live, we live. And they put it in all caps. Right? Too many of us are so busy trying to leave a legacy, we're limiting what we do. What if your legacy was that you lived an insanely magical life without giving a rat's rear end about leaving a legacy? Wouldn't that be a cool legacy? Dude just lived out loud all the time. I'm not there. I want to be. But for me, what I understand is the first step to get there is to admit that I'm not. Right? So, I'll wrap up with this. I don't know if it's still available on their website or not. I would hope so. Asheville Center for Spiritual Living. And a practitioner who did a talk, Dying to Be Me. And she did it literally days before she died. And what she shared was a tremendous journey of healing that could only come through her dance with going through her process of physical death. And it's wonderful and humorous. I mean, she started off her talk with, I've been dying to speak on this stage, and apparently that's what it takes. But there was a lightness and a magnificence in her energy. And there was a healing, there was a profound healing that came to her through her physical death process. And so, how are we defining healing? Now, does healing really require the absence of physical illness? I don't know. I watched my own mother heal things that I never imagined she would heal as she was leaving her body. So maybe leaving our body is the ultimate portal to healing. I don't know. But what I do know is all the scientific evidence points to we have a shelf life. Right? That none of us is getting out of this physical journey alive. And yet, that may be the moment when we're most alive. And so, I invite you to give yourself permission to play with the idea. To be grateful that you can even contemplate it. To be grateful for every messy moment of this short journey that we call human life. Because it is short. Man, when you look at the length of time that creation has existed, 100 or so years, it's a blip. What are you doing while you're here? What are you celebrating? When you get up in the morning, you're at choice. You can get up in the morning and you go, oh, good God. Or you can get up in the morning, good morning, God. You get to decide. No, it doesn't mean that getting up instantly became less audible. Right? Because we can still, morning, God. But it's the attitude. Are you willing to be grateful that you woke up? Right? Are you willing to be grateful that you woke up with a roof over your head? As soon as gravity hits and you find your way to the bathroom, are you willing to be grateful that you can actually go to the bathroom, that there is a bathroom, that there's toilet paper in the bathroom? There's lots to be grateful for. Yes. Every moment of every day. And so whether you're palpably aware that you're in a physical death process or not, you get to choose how grateful you want to be. How much gratitude can you stand? Right? And here's the thing I promise you. If you decide to go all in practicing gratitude as a way of life, and you get overwhelmed and you actually find that point where there's just too much gratitude to stand, call me, I'll create some crap to help you out of that dilemma. I'm good at it. I won't even have to work hard. You get to choose. How much good can you stand? If you strip away all of the labels, what's left? I think gratitude. And I think it's without words. It's just this sense of, wow. That when I really let myself be grateful, the only word that comes to me is wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And so I invite you to be just profoundly inarticulate all week. And just wander around. Wow. Worst thing that happens is somebody tries to 5150 you. Give me a call. I'll explain what's going on. But just really wander around. Wow. Look into somebody else's eyes. Wow. And let yourself feel it. Right? As simple as this looks, if we really take it apart and understand how this little thing communicates with that little thing back there that makes all of this change up here, wow. Right? Yeah. The fact that every time you sit down on your chair, it supports you instead of running away. Wow. Right? Yeah. I invite you to play with it. Just have a week of wow. Let's take this into prayer. And the word that comes to mind is wow. One, power. Everywhere present, indefinable, unchanging, and yet constantly expressing in the multiplicity of form. Having no beginning, it has no end. It simply is this ever-existent, eternal substance. And in this moment, I call it life. I am that in form. All life is that in form. Never separate from the source, from the substance. All life is this beautiful, inseparable connection of one. Wow. So I speak my word in gratitude. Gratitude that is beyond what I have words for. And I simply allow my sensational self, the self that senses, to just feel that. Wow. To breathe it in. To release any need to explain it. To qualify it. To limit it. Wow. Grateful. Grateful beyond words. Grateful at a level that sees itself. Wow. So I let go. I let go of anything and everything that would impede my experience of the infinite in all of its magnificence and all of its glory. I say yes. Yes to living full on, unrestricted, unbound. Yes. I invite you to join me in this sacred yes as we say together, and so it is.